Happy Tuesday, friends. I hope y'all are doing so well today. Welcome back to another Pro Tip segment. My name is Idara Ekpoh. I'm going to be your host for the day and really excited for today's topic. It's probably my favorite tool in Lightroom. We're going to be talking about masking today. So I hope y'all are ready for today's pro tip. If you joined us yesterday, we talked a little bit about color profiles and things of that nature. And we're going to take it a step further, talking about masking and how this can be a really essential tool in your workflow. Before I go ahead and get started, go ahead and drop where you are joining from. I am here in Phoenix, Arizona. It is very bright and very sunny and hot outside, but cold in my house. That's why I have the sweater on. So drop where you are joining from. Really excited for this topic today. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat and I will be sure to address it throughout this segment. So let's go ahead and get started. We have this lovely portrait of my friend Jamel. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about how we can really bring this portrait to life utilizing the masking tool in Lightroom Classic. Now, this was a new there were a lot of additions that came to this tool last year when it came to the incorporation of AI and really being able to detect certain aspects of your image, right? So I really love this because before, if you wanted to create a mask, you were taking a brush and really trying to carefully color in the portions of your subject, maybe the background or an object that you wanted to edit, essentially. Whereas now you have so much more freedom where Lightroom is going to help you create those masks for you. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about how you can add a mask to your subject, sky, background, objects, etc. So before I go ahead and do that, let me just prep this image real quickly. I want to do some quick color correcting, just like we talked about yesterday. I'm going to come into browse, look at my color profiles. Let me see real quickly. I am seeing let's see, Chicago, San Antonio, Germany. Somebody said, after what we've been through, how can you be excited by mask? Funny one, Sean, funny one. I was so caught. I was like, what do you mean mask? Oh, COVID. So I'm going to come over here and just look at our color profiles real quickly. I think I'm going to go with neutral. And I'm going to see if I want to do any kind of correction. I do want to bring down the exposure. I really want this to be a really deep and rich image. I'm going to bring up the shadows a little bit, the blacks, let's see, and bring down the color temperature a tad bit. So this is what I think we're going to go ahead and start with. Now I'm going to come over to this lovely circle over here, and this is what's going to open up your mask. So what you're going to go ahead and do, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with masking my subject to let you guys see what this looks like. Now, if you have one person in your portrait, you can just click on subject and it's going to create a mask for the subject that is in the portrait. If you have multiple people and you want to create a mask for your subject, you can press this button as well. But if you are wanting to create a mask for individual people, which I will show you in a later example, there is an option here where it's going to detect the people in the photo, and it'll have options for person 1, person 2, person 3, depending on how many people you have in the image. It should be able to detect those individual people. But I'm just going to go ahead and click on subject. And what you're going to see is it quickly is going to create a mask for my subject. Very easy. I didn't have to do anything. I also really love that it did a pretty good job with capturing her hair as well. And so I'm just going to make some general overall edits to the subject. I'm going to increase my exposure just a little bit of her. I'm going to add some contrast. And like I talked about yesterday, usually what I try to do is just play around and see what I like and what's pleasing to my eyes. And there's really no exact method that I follow when I'm doing this. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity to her, just a tad bit. Don't want to be doing too much. And the other great thing that you have when you're creating masks is that you are able to adjust the amount of the effect that you created with the slider. So if I thought it was too much, I could decrease it. If I wanted to increase it, I could. But I'm going to keep it at that 100 mark because it's pretty fine the way it is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle before and after. So that's the before of our subject. This is after. So she's not as warm, a little bit cooler. And I really like how the highlights on her face are really coming out a bit more. I'm gonna come back here. I can create a new mask. And what I'm going to do, and the other thing I'll show before I move on to other portions of this image, I do want to show you all some other aspects when it comes to selecting your subject. And maybe you only want to edit your subject's face or body or certain aspects of your subject opposed to the entire person. You can click on that select people. It's going to identify who your person is, and then you have the option to either edit the entire person similar to what we did before, or I could just edit her face. And sometimes I'll do face, body, skin, or you can just do eyebrows, lips, hair, etc., whatever you're feeling in that moment. So that really gives you some freedom in how you're able to identify certain aspects of your subject and being able to target your editing to specific areas. So I'm going to leave that as is. I actually don't need that. I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to select, let's do background. So sometimes I really like to, not even sometimes, I do this for every photo. I like to create some depth, a little bit more depth between my subject and the background. So I really love that Adobe Lightroom Classic and Adobe Lightroom also gives you the option to select the background and create a quick mask for your background as well. And so what I'm going to do is I created that mask that is ready to go. And what I'm going to do is decrease the exposure a little bit. Let's see what that does for a subject. So it kind of brings her out a little bit more. Let's see. Oh, my chat went away. Let me pull back up my chat real quickly so I don't miss anything from y'all. All right, cool. We're back and rolling here. Yeah, perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and, again, just messing around with these sliders. I kind of want, again, that depth in the background. So I'm going to really bring down the blacks a little bit. So she's kind of popping out a bit more. I really like that. And then if I wanted to add a little bit of warmth or cool it down, I'm going to cool it down. I could do that as well. So far we have our subject that we created a mask for. We have our background. So that's the before and after. So you can already see, again, she was she was still there with the background. I feel like she was still separated, but I like to create a bit more of a moodier effect with this image. So I want it to be a lot deeper. So that's why I went for that look with the background. Now, if I wanted to create another mask, and let's say, you know what, let's see what's going to happen with the sky. Let's see what we can play around with the sky. I don't like to always stick with the traditional blue sky. I like to go for more of I think it's like a turquoise is the color that I'm going for. And so you can go ahead and click on create new mask. I clicked on select sky, and you can see how Adobe Lightroom is just going to go ahead and identify what the sky is in the actual image. And so I'm going to come in here and let's see, as I'm making my edits, you can see what that's going to be doing to the image. And I think I'm going to keep the hue and the exposure and everything the same, and just come down here to the hue and see what I can do with the background. So I kind of want so I can go really dramatic and change it to these different colors. You want to be mindful because as you zoom in here, I'll show you guys, you can see that the lines over here, the original blue leaves a little bit of line. So you don't want that to pop out. So you still want to find a color that works really seamlessly with the natural color that there was in your mask. And so I'm going to come here. Let's go with this blue. And Sean made an actual great pro tip. Make sure y'all name your mask, okay? I am not doing that right now, but I'm going to do that. Go ahead and do it because I'm not going to be caught slipping on live today. So I'm going to say this was subject. I'm going to rename this one. You just click on the 3 dots and click rename. I'm going to say background for this. And then rename sky. That way I don't lose track of all of the editing that I'm doing so far as I'm adding more and more masks to my image. So let's see what this looks like before and after. There's a little bit of a tint on her hair, but for now we'll just leave that as, ooh, it's very, very, let's see. Okay, we're gonna go with that color. Let's see, this is the before and that's the after. So I'm gonna come back here. So we have our subject mask, we have our background mask, and then we also have the mask for our sky. So you can see how very quickly we were able to make some drastic changes to our subject. And then I can, at this point, if I felt like, okay, this is pretty good for the mask so far, I could go into my color grading and make specific edits there later on. So let me go ahead and show y'all the before and after of this image. And this is just with color correcting our image. We picked a color profile that we discussed yesterday. I picked the camera neutral one. And then I just made some slight edits to the actual basics and exposure, getting it to where I wanted it to be exposed. And then I made the mask, which were a mask of my subject, the mask of the background, and then the mask of the sky. So you can see how within a couple of minutes, we were able to really make a drastic before and after with this portrait. So I'm going to leave this as is. This isn't where I would stop. I would go into color grading, but I don't want to talk about that too much today. So we're going to just focus on how drastic masks can really impact your photo. And I'm going to come over to this image right here to continue that conversation. So one other great mask that you have that you can easily quickly make in Lightroom is you can make a mask of specific objects. So if you have an object in your photo that you want to maybe switch up, focus on just editing that specific object, you can easily do that. So I'm going to show y'all how. I'm going to come back here to my masking tool and I'm going to click on objects. Actually, hold on, rewind, let's go back. Let me actually incorporate some of yesterday's pro tip into this portrait real quickly. I'm going to come here for neutral. As you can see, Faithful is way too red for her skin tone. She doesn't have red undertone. She has more of a yellow golden undertone. So I want to make sure that I maintain that because this Faithful is making her look way too red. I'm going to go with this neutral and versus the standard that makes her look too orange. So I'm going to go for neutral. I'm going to go ahead and close that up right there and then see if there's any kind of adjustments that I slightly want to make before we go into our mask. And I'm just doing this by eye and trying to see what I want that to look like. I think that's solid for right now. So now I'm going to come back to my mask. I'm going to start with objects to show y'all this specific step. And then we'll go into background and editing our subject, similar to what we did with the last image. So if you want to edit a object, you can see here I have my brush tool and we're going to focus on the object being this radio down here. I'm going to bring down the size of this brush. Lovely. And I'm going to just make a rough outline of the radio. Just very rough. And let's see what that's going to do there. So that kind of got this portion of the radio. I'm still missing this component here. So I'm going to click on my mask, click on add, and I'm going to click on add object again so I can make sure I can come back and get the remainder of this. And I think if I just go like this, I should be fine to be able to get it. So very, very rough. And let's see what that does. Perfect, almost perfect. We're missing a little section right here. So I'm going to take that and see if I can reduce the size of my brush and just get this small portion right here. Lovely. So now what we were able to do, I had to do it 3 times, which honestly, to be honest, this is a lot easier than me just going in and painting freehandly. You guys can see how quickly I was just able to make a quick rough mask and it was able to identify majority of the radio. And then I just went in to kind of get the spots that were missing. So this is that coverage of like before and after where you can see the mask and what it's covering right there. So let's say I wanted to maybe increase the exposure a little bit, add some more contrast. It's a little bit dusty, honestly, to be honest. It's a little dusty. I wish I would have cleaned it. That's another pro tip. Make sure y'all clean your objects before shooting. There are so many things that you can do before you shoot making sure your subject's hair is good, making sure that their clothing is how you want it situated. If there are objects you're utilizing, making sure your objects are clean, okay, which is not what I did here, but learn from my mistakes. I would have cleaned this radio so that way the dust that you're seeing down here in this corner, you wouldn't see. But I'm just going to leave it because we ain't got time for all of that. We're just going to leave that as is. So I'm just going to make some slight edits to the radio just so y'all can get an idea of what that would look like. And that's the quick before and after. Just wanted it to look a little bit deeper. If I wanted to create another mask of an object, let me see if I can get her jacket here, just out of curiosity. So I'm creating a mask real quickly. I'm trying to outline some of her jacket. It might get some of her hair. So, yep, perfect. But I got a little bit of her hair, which I'm not really worried about. But you can see how quickly, again, I was able to create a mask of her jacket there. And then if I wanted to change the color of her jacket, it is changing the color of the beads, but that could be a vibe too. And if I didn't want that to occur, I could, of course, come in and subtract from this portion of the mask, which I'm actually going to come in and do, and just real roughly get the beads. And bam, bam, look at that. We are back in business. And hopefully y'all can see that clearly. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Ooh, so these red beads here, I'm going to click subtract objects and just make a mask over it. And you can see that it removes the mask from the beads there. And then I'm going to do, let's see, I want to do the same thing for these beads over here. I'm going to come back to this mask and I will name my mask. I'm going to click subtract objects. And then here we go again, hover over it and bam, the color is off of that mask. So now I'm going to come here and zoom back out and we're going to go back to that mask and see what we can do with her jacket. So I'm going to click on the mask here. Lovely. And let's see what color we're feeling here. And the other thing about the jacket is that it was, what was the color originally? Kind of blue and brown. So there's two different colors in this jacket specifically. So as I'm changing the hue and the tint and the temperature, it's going to be impacting both of those colors, which could create a really, really cool, funky vibe if that's what you're going for, or you could just keep it where it is. Ooh, that's really nice. That's a lot vibrant. I think I'm going to make that blue like pop a little bit. And this is just the fun part of I really like colors for this reason, because you can just play around with hue and saturation and everything and just see what you come up with. So that's the before and after. Let's see, before and after of our jacket. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a mask of our background. One thing that I love to do, I mentioned this before, I love to separate my subject from the background if possible. It did get the radio in here, so I am going to come down here and subtract and try to see if I can subtract the radio. And I'm not too concerned about the one braid that's in there. So you can see that is easy. I subtracted that object and then gonna come up in here and get all of that. Lovely. Okay, that's gonna have to do for right now. So we're gonna come back to this mask, and while I'm at it, let me rename these masks. I'm gonna say radio. I'm going to say jacket. And then I'm gonna say curtains. So I did not misspell anything. I did not, because that would be embarrassing. So I'm gonna go ahead and reduce the exposure a little bit. I really want the depth in the curtains to come out and all those shadows. I really want them to be emphasized. Let's see. I'm going to just play around with these level. Oh, not too much. Don't want it to be doing too much. And then the other great thing I want to do, these curtains are a lovely green. The curtains and the ground as well as this lovely green color. But if I wanted to switch that up a little bit, I could do that as well. And this is me being very dramatic right now, but maybe I wanted it to be purple, and maybe that might be a vibe. Let's leave that for purple. I'm feeling that. I really like the combination of the jacket now that we had before, that we changed to more of a blue with the curtains that are purple. And you can see just with one mask how we were able to dramatically change the background as well as the the carpet is the name of that I'm looking for. Perfect. So I'm gonna come in here and let's see. I'm gonna whiten her teeth with this adaptive preset and add a little bit of warmth to my photo. And then again, if I come back here and I see, oh, and actually the other thing I want to point out that I just did, if my subjects have teeth that I want to be whitened, or maybe they have eyebrows that I want to darken, or eyes that I want to enhance, you have great adaptive presets over here, where if you click on it, if I click on darken eyebrows, it's going to create a mask for her eyebrows. And if I felt like they weren't dark enough, I could come in on that mask and create an edit there. So I don't want it to be too dramatic, but that's something you could easily do there. This purple, I'm not sure if I'm feeling it too much. It's a little too bright for me. So we're just going to go back to the green. We're going to go back to the green right now. But again, you guys can see how you can easily change the color of the background just with creating a mask there. And this is really great if, again, like I mentioned, if you have a lot of color in your image. I love to play around with it. I don't like to feel like I'm restricted. So you can easily do that there. And then one more tip I want to show y'all real quickly. I mentioned this earlier. If you have a photo that has multiple subjects in it, like this photo does, you can create a mask for each individual person in the image. So if I come here to mask and I wait for this to detect the people, like I mentioned before, you can do all people, or you can go ahead and make a mask for each individual person, excuse me, that is in the image. So if I wanted to come in here, these are some of the edits. I think we did touch this image a little bit yesterday because I already have my profile set. I made some basic edits. So I'm going to go ahead and come into each individual person and see what I want to do. I'm going to focus on, let's just do the entire person for the sake of time. And then I could come in here and really bring out and make sure they are, especially when it comes to having subjects of multiple skin tones, I like to create individual masks for them so I can make sure that each person is looking the way that they're meant to look. And you can see that that was the before. I felt like she was a little overexposed. So I wanted to bring back that depth and richness in her skin. And then I could come back here, create another mask, and go to my next subject who is next to her and do the exact same thing. And you would just essentially repeat this process over and over and over again for any subjects you have in the photo. That way you can really ensure that you are maintaining the skin tone that is specific to each subject and not making general edits to everyone in the photo. I'm going to come back here to select people. We're going to finish up and wrap up with this image, but I want to show you here with Chantel. She is a lot fairer than the rest of the group. So I want to bring in that color back into her skin for sure. And I'm going to actually come back in. So you can just make those quick edits. And this is just rough for you all to see how we were able to drastically, spinning. Okay, we got the spinning wheel, but it's gone now. And then we'll do this for our last subject. Make similar edits like in that case. And then you can see, if I show you the before and after, this is the before and after, just with creating individual masks for each specific subject. I was really able to bring back the richness and the color in their skin and not have to make general edits for everyone. You guys saw that with the first subject, she's darker in complexion. So I felt like she was a little bit overexposed. So I wanted to really reduce the exposure to bring back the depth in her skin. And I didn't want to do that to everyone else because not everyone needs that specific edit. So sometimes it could be really great to create individual masks for that reason, especially when you are editing people of different skin tones, different complexions. So you're making sure that you are maintaining the color of their skin. So I really hope that y'all enjoyed this lesson today. Really want to encourage you to utilize mask in your portraits. It's going to create so much flexibility in your editing and so much freedom, and is really going to be saving you so much time because a lot of this editing that I was showing you today, I would do individually, one person to the next person, and just masking it in with my hand, and my hand would get tired. But it's really great that Adobe has created these features for you to be able to quickly create these masks so you can go ahead and just focus on what you're meant to do, which is essentially edit. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's segment. I will catch y'all tomorrow for another pro tip. Have a great day.